Okay, so a few days ago I promised to go into detail on just like everything Splatoon 4, so that's what I did. This video is broken up into every topic I could think of that has like something to do with Splatoon 4. There's not a good flow with it, it's just whatever ADHD thought happened with that happened to have the word Splatoon 4 attached to it. Alright, let's go. Earliest it could come out is 2026. This all depends on when development started on Splatoon 4. Personally, I think it probably started right after Side Order, at least in a small way. Concept art, concepts for past, present, or future themed games, really early production stuff. If that's the case, then Splatoon 4 would have already been in development for 6 months, which is a really nice chunk in Splatoon game standards, like potentially a quarter of it. It's a bit unrealistic, but not completely impossible to see Splatoon 4 in 2026. This wouldn't be the best possibility though. I mean, Splatoon 3 had a lot of crucial flaws, and I'd rather Nintendo like take another year or two to make sure we don't have to live through all the events that happened in Splatoon 3 Year 1 again. Latest it could come out is 2028. I can't really see Splatoon 4 releasing anytime past 2028. If 4 started production like a month after Grandfest and released around summer 2028, then in this timeline Splatoon 4 would have a very solid and respectable 4 years of development. Which, oh my goodness, the idea of a Splatoon game with like a 4-year dev time makes me foam at the mouth. The amount of polish and perfection in this game would be like unbelievable. Imagine a Splatoon with 3 to 4 years of updates, 2 or 3 story DLCs, maybe even getting like 4 weapon kits, all around solid maps. Dear lord, the Splatoon team could cook up literal peak if Nintendo gave them all of this time to make Splatoon 4. And at first you might be thinking, well, I don't want to wait 4 years for the next game. Splatoon, in reality, is given unfair golden child treatment from Nintendo. I mean, it's one of their core franchises, but when you look at it in sales figures, it hasn't exactly earned that title yet. There are so many things we could get over like the next 4 years in the Splatoon series that aren't like a mainline game. Spin-offs, Splatfest reruns. If Nintendo wasn't messing around, maybe even an anime, which I don't think we should see as something too unrealistic. If Yokai Watch could get an anime, then there's absolutely nothing stopping Splatoon from getting one. Realistically, I don't think Nintendo's gonna wait 4 years to drop Splatoon 4. The franchise is growing, so waiting almost like half a decade to keep the hype train going just isn't going to be the winning move. The latest I could realistically see Splatoon 4 coming out would be like 2027, which is still a respectable amount of time. Especially if they started production around the time Side Order dropped and not after 3 ended, so we'd get a reveal and hype build up similar to 3's rollout window in like early 2026. Past theme probably won't be about the Great Turf War. Look, I'm going to be so real with you, Splatoon 4 is not going to be about the Great Turf War. First reason being is the fact that the Great Turf War is just such a perfect spin-off game. Like, there's so many amazing ways that a Great Turf War game could be put into a fresh way to take the series. Like, what if it was like a turn-based RPG? That would be such a cool thing to do with the game's most, like, significant lore event. Like, actually, I don't think a Great Turf War campaign in traditional Splatoon third-person shooter fashion would even be anything you'd want to get. Like, realistically, the game would play like Octo or Mammalians with the progression of a COD campaign topped with Marvel movie writing. Like, really, it would be complete ass. We don't want a mainline game with a Great Turf War campaign. Especially when so many other genres would fit it better. I would love a Great Turf War game, just not as a mainline game. Also, you've got to think about the whole rest of the game. Twitter's been arguing with itself over what would happen to Octolings. I'm more concerned about how multiplayer would work since canonically Turf War was gained popularity after the Great Turf War. So a mainline Great Turf War game would have to do like something with Inklings versus Octolings, which the whole anti-racism theme they did with Octo expansion would just fly right into the trash if they went with this. It just wouldn't work in the same way that a spin-off would. And onto the subject of spin-offs, it is far time we got a spin-off. We're 3 mainline games in, it's time to see what else Nintendo could do with the series, and I think they were experimenting with the idea of a spin-off, Side Order being a roguelite. It wasn't typical Splatoon. Nintendo wants to branch out. And past theme winning Grandfest, they have the perfect opportunity to make a Great Turf War spin-off. I was talking with my friend about this a few days ago and how cool it would be to have like a Fire Emblem-esque Splatoon game set in the Great Turf War, where the party you play as is the original Squidbeak Splatoon. Like I mentioned earlier, Splatoon 4 simply won't be about the Great Turf War, but a spin-off absolutely could be, and why stop there? There's so many different things Nintendo could do with the Splatoon IP for spin-offs. Let's cross off the like party games that are already taken over by Mario. We don't want repetitive games. What about about a fully developed table turf battle game, like a $20 or even like Switch Online game that's just strictly a much more developed table turf battle with online matchmaking. And if you don't think this is a good idea, take into consideration that Hearthstone is one of the biggest esports of all time, and the only thing stopping table turf from having a shot is Nintendo not developing it enough. What about an actual Squid Beats game with like every Splatoon song ever? What if they made it into something like Fortnite Festival or Friday Night Funkin'? The point is here, they could go in so many different places with the series that aren't making Splatoon 4 to keep the community happy and give the actual Splatoon team more time to make 4. Codename Spiral, as interesting as this one is, we know the least about it, so potentially this is the next entry in the Splatoon series. This leaked a few months ago, and the reason I don't want to get too much into it is because I really don't know if this is actually true. The leaker that posted about it had their Twitter account go down shortly after, and there's been no info in Spiral since. Could this be true? Yeah, and if it is, then the biggest piece of information we get from it is that Splatoon 4 started production sometime back in like June, which would give a bit more credibility to a 2026 launch window, giving Splatoon 4 2 years of development. Splatoon 3 Deluxe is not going to happen. There's one thing that I want everyone to drop the idea of now. We are not going to get a Splatoon 3 Deluxe, and there's multiple reasons for this. So what exactly would happen if Splatoon 3 Deluxe came out? Well, for one, the Switch 2 is said to be backwards compatible, so that would mean we'd have 2 different Splatoon 3s on the Switch 2 plus Splatoon 2 since that's backwards compatible. And would these games be able to play with each other? If so, then that would mean all the new content in the Splatoon 3 Deluxe would have to be single player only, because if there were new maps and weapons, then they'd either have to be on a different server, or you'd literally be paying $60 to play the exact same game with a few more maps and weapons that just aren't unlocked in your copy of the game. And by the way, that also divide the community into who can play on the new content and who can't. So no, we are not going to get Splatoon 3 Deluxe. As for story theories, I don't have a whole ton right now. What I do think that we're not going to be dealing with is an either Off the Hook story or a Squid Beak Splatoon story. Return of the Mammalians was said to be the end of the whole trilogy, and we just got an Off the Hook story. If any idols are going to be in the new story, I think it would either be Deep Cut because they had next to nothing in their own game, or whoever comes next for idols. As for plot, my gut wants to say it's going to have something to do with Salmonids just because of Lil Judd running Grizzco threads and the Grand Run killing off God only knows how much of the Salmonid population. They could do something really interesting, maybe go with a theme about overfishing or overhunting, something that's not really that deep. I think it's pretty realistic, but then again, I could see them not doing that since Return of the Mammalians already had a lot to do with Grizzco, so it might be a bit too soon. Maybe Grizzco story for DLC, who knows, man. Finally, do we really need a Splatoon 4 yet? Now, the last thing to talk about today regarding Splatoon 4, do we even need it? Financially, the train's got to keep going, moving on from Nintendo's standpoint, so they've got more to gain from putting Splatoon 4 out sooner than later. Regardless of whether or not the game's up to the quality we would want it to be, that we'd get if we got a 3 to 4 year development cycle rather than 2 years from now, personally, I'd rather wait longer if it means Nintendo drops literal peak. I really don't want to live through another Splatoon 3 year 1 again. Even if that meant we weren't going to get the game until 2027 or even 2028. Though realistically, we would have this game in our hands by at latest September 2027, no doubt about that. Alright, that's literally everything I could come up with. Actually, it's not. We didn't talk about Animal Crossing and Splatoon teams. There's a really good video by Nintendo Forecast that I'll link in the description. Seriously, I love that guy. If you want a realistic understanding of how Nintendo operates, go watch his content. Subscribe to me. It would be pretty cool if you did. I might come kill you if you don't. You never know. Come to my streams. They're a lot of fun. Anyways, gamers, that is it from me. See ya.